A split call. Eugenie Sage, 5 minutes.
Pleased to take a call on the Wildlife Powers Amendment Bill, which the Green Party will be supporting to Select Committee. I think the very short speech given by the previous speaker shows the very limited vision of the government in relation to our Indigenous wildlife. We all agree in this House about the importance of our Indigenous plants and wildlife. I've heard various comments about their importance in terms of our identity as Kiwis, but this bill has a very limited ambition. Certainly it gives additional powers to Department of Conservation staff to prevent offences, to detect and investigate offences under the Wildlife Act, to seize materials, to stop people, but it just shows a complete lack of vision. Because if the government is amending the Wildlife Act, if it's taking parliamentary time to do this, it could have been much more ambitious by amending the Act to protect our Indigenous freshwater fish, given their very precarious state. 74% of our freshwater fish species, our native species, are staring extinction in the face. And that is a statistic to be ashamed of, given that it's one of the highest proportions of threatened native freshwater fish in the world. And it's the Wildlife Act which provides varying levels of protection for our birds, for our native reptiles, for our skinks, our geckos, our native frogs, our bats, and 8 marine fish species. It protects them from poaching, from hunting, from collecting, and from being held in captivity without the proper authorisation. You can't kill native birds, except for the pukeko, the paradise shelduck and titi, because of the provisions in the Wildlife Act. You can't keep native birds in captivity without authorisation from DOC because of the provisions in the Wildlife Act. Yet people can kill and destroy our freshwater fish and their habitat because of the big hole in the Wildlife Act. And this bill does absolutely nothing to close it. And as my colleague Kevin Haig pointed out, this highlights the need for a comprehensive review of the Wildlife Act to provide much better protection, not just to endangered species, but to their habitat as well. And Mr. Speaker, the reason this is such a crucial gap is that there's been an incredible decline in the health and status of our native freshwater fish over the last 20 years, which has coincided with the intensification of agriculture in our lowland areas. In 1990, DOC recorded 10 freshwater fish species as threatened with extinction. By 2002, that had increased to 16. In 2013, a comprehensive review showed that 74% of all of our native freshwater taxa were threatened with extinction, and that is 76% if you just consider the native fish species which don't spend part of their life at sea. 4 of the 5 species that people eat as whitebait patties are threatened with extinction. It is a ridiculous state of affairs that we don't have a single native freshwater fish species protected under the Wildlife Act except grayling, and they are extinct. It's also ridiculous that we continue to allow the killing of threatened species. 4 of the 5 whitebait species, the koaro, the short-jawed kokopu, the giant kokopu and the inanga, are all taken by whitebait fishers. They are all threatened with extinction. We've got regulations under the freshwater fisheries regulations which protect exotic species, brown trout, rainbow trout, chinook salmon, but we have no legal protection for our native fish. That is a gap which this bill could remedy by adding all of our native fish species and a lot of our Indigenous invertebrates to the schedules at the back of the Act and giving the Department of Conservation staff increased powers to monitor the whitebait fishery and to actually protect those species. It's also ridiculous that we have no legal protection for tuna, long-finned eel. There was a comprehensive report by the Parliamentary Commissioner for the Environment about their decline to extinction. Again, this bill could close that loophole by adding them to the list of protected species. That will be something that we hope to see submissions on, and we hope that the Minister will recognise that that's a major gap and look to amend the legislation to close it.